Welcome back to the AKG Media on the Selling Logan podcast. Our guest today is Lauren Jones from Lauren Jones Buyers Agency. Lauren, welcome.
Beautiful. Thanks for having me, Cory.
No worries. Let's dive straight into it, Lauren. Now, you're a buyer's agent. You run your own buyer's agency. Tell us about your story, how you got into the industry, and what your plans are for the future.
Yeah, so I actually kind of fell into buyer's agency by mistake. It wasn't like a lot of buyer's agents nowadays who've gone out, done a course and opened an agency. I was actually in finance prior, so I was working for a mortgage broker, and I hated giving a client a loan and then they'd come back with a contract and, either it was flood affected or they'd overpaid or it was just the wrong property for them. So I wanted to be more involved in helping people make good property decisions. I was probably listening to 20 hours of podcasts a week, reading every book I could find. I think I was reading 25 books a year on property and investing. And so I went to go and look for another job, and I still thought I was going to be a mortgage broker. I realised that there weren't many good mortgage broker jobs going where you're specifically working with investors and helping people make those good decisions. So I started emailing companies. I was reading their books, listening to their podcasts, and one of them responded and asked me to come in for an interview. And only in that interview did I realise that they didn't actually have mortgage brokers. They were buyer's agents with no brokerage in-house. So they asked me if I wanted to come be a buyer's agent associate with them. And I did. And that's kind of end of the story.
Okay. So you started as a buyer's agent. Now you've had success pretty quickly and you're already starting to build your team. How are you finding building your team? Because there's a little bit of high turnover in the industry sometimes with staff members. How are you going about keeping staff members and finding the right fit for your team?
Yeah, it's hard. And it's a funny thing because not only did I never really want to be a business owner, I never really wanted to employ people as well. Before having my team now, I'd never had to manage people before. So it's been such a learning journey. I've definitely made a few mistakes. But what I've done recently, probably in the last 6 months, is I've actually hired a HR consultant. And she's done a lot of work with me on how to manage my people, so understanding what are their personality types and how to get the best out of them. Because at the start, I couldn't understand that people didn't think the same way as me and didn't work the same way as me. So I'm very adaptive to change. Throw a task at me, I'll get it done. Yeah. Whereas some of the people who are working for me, or one guy who was working for me, he would get really overwhelmed and he needed me to sit down and say, look, this is your task list that we started with at the day. I need you to put this into the list and this is the new priority. So I've learned this kind of stuff now, and now whenever I look to take on a new team member, I make sure that we understand what's their personality, what are they good at, and then I slot them into that role.
Yeah. That's I'm in a very similar boat at the moment with running teams. Everyone's all got different personalities, and some people like to be told exactly how it is. Some other people, you've got to come in really, really soft and a really soft approach to them to be able to get tasks done. So it's definitely a spinning plates, trying to adapt to each different personality that you have in your team, so you can continue to grow your team. So now what's your particular clientele, everyday clientele that you look after? Is it investors? Is it first homeowners? Is it a mixture, or what?
So I like to say that we like to work with everyday people. So we're not out there trying to chase luxury homes, and we're also not trying to build these 10 plus property portfolios. We're working with your mum and dad investors who've got generally modest budgets. And as far as home buyers go, so about 75% of our clients are home buyers, 25% investors. And of those home buyers, we tend to work with a lot of first home buyers. Yeah. I find they tend to be the ones that need the help the most. Because
just trying to get into the market and trying to find the right.
They've got no experience. Yeah. And also the property that they buy is really going to dictate where they end up down the future. If they buy the wrong property and it goes backwards, like if they buy, an off-the-plan unit that goes down in value, good luck trying to get into that right home. Or it might just take a very long time to recover from that. Whereas if you buy the first home, buy the right property from the start, it grows significantly in value. That will be the right stepping stone to get them into that forever home. We also work with a lot of over 55s. similar to first home buyers, they often haven't bought a home in, over 20 years, and a lot can change in
It's
20 years.
It's a little bit different. Yeah, 20 years, the market's a little bit different
Just
20 years ago. Yeah.
And then we also work with a lot of people buying and selling at the same time. So I'm sure you can see from the selling side how difficult that is and how stressful it can be to make everything line up. Actually, it's interesting to hear it from your side as well. Are you seeing a lot of people battling with buying and selling at the same time?
Yeah, so at the moment, because the market is still very, very hot, a lot of the people that are selling are looking at upsizing or downsizing, and it's like, do we sell first or do we go and try and buy first? So that's the majority of people that are selling at the moment.
How do you find most people are getting around that? Are they looking to things like bridging finance, or are they just...
Yeah, so I'll always try and recommend if they can, if they're in a position to do bridging finance. A lot of the people that I'm noticing probably in the last couple of months is they've owned the property for 20, 30 years. Some of them even own the property outright, and then now they're looking at downsizing. So they've got a lot of equity. They might already own their own homes. But they're in a tricky position where some of them are actually retired now, so they can't get bridging finance. So they have no other option except to sell their property first and then go and buy something else, because trying to secure something subject to selling your home at the moment is extremely, extremely difficult to do.
Yeah, and I think as well we've had very little stock come on the market in the last couple of years, really, and I think the downsizes are a big part of that, because you're right, they've got all this equity in their home, but they can't have that until they sell, often because they've got no incomes. But normally when people sell a home, they'll either buy something else, but as you said, it's very difficult to buy subject to sale. They'll build something else. No one really wants to build at the moment, let's be real. Or they'll go and rent something else. And we're in a rental crisis. So I think a lot of people are just choosing to sit on their homes. There is a bit more stock coming to the market as of late. So I'm starting to see properties start to sell with subject to sale conditions. Are you seeing a lot more stock come to market in your areas?
Yeah, definitely. Traditionally, Logan's always been a very, very heavy investor precinct. Like lots and lots and lots of investors have been there. Like I remember years and years ago when I first got into the industry, I only ever used to deal with buyer's agents, because back then when the market was a lot tougher, and this is factual for me anyway, I think without buyer's agents, Logan market would literally nearly be dead. Like it really would be, because back then they were the only people that were purchasing in Logan. You'd get the occasional first home buyer, but the majority of them were buyer's agents. So buyer's agents, in my opinion, kept Logan afloat like 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah. And now a lot of those investors, would you say that they're selling to other investors now when they hit the market, or first home buyers, or what kind of people are actually buying these homes? So
it's probably 50-50 at the moment, because the returns are still there with the rental boom and everything that's happening. That's still, it's not as crazy as it was about a year ago, but the returns are still there for the investors. So yeah, probably 50-50 with investors versus home buyers or somebody wanting to move into the property. Yeah, 50-50.
Do you think that a lot of Logan has had a reputation for, having slightly poorer demographics? Do you think that with more owner-occupiers moving into Logan, it's going to kind of gentrify a bit faster and start to become a bit more desirable location?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I mean, I've grown up in Logan my whole life, and as you said, there's definitely there's a little bit of a stigma about it, but yeah, I think with a lot of first home buyers coming into the market, that will definitely slowly erase that over time, because traditionally it was always just an investor market majority of the time. But now with the market where it is, a lot of people have been priced out, so they've got to come towards Logan, Ipswich ways. So Logan's still definitely affordable for a lot of first home buyers, and that's why we're seeing so many more first home buyers come into the market in Logan.
Yeah, still lots of investors though?
Still definitely get a lot of investors, but just because of the returns are still there for them. So.
Yeah. What about selling properties in Logan? Do you find it tends to be more of an auction-heavy market, or private sale, or off-market sales?
I think since COVID, auctions were definitely not a thing, but before COVID hit, when the market got a lot more stronger and there was a lot more buyer demand, I think Logan then changed into, I wouldn't say very heavy auction market, but there's definitely a lot more auctions that are run now. I myself, I love doing auctions. I think it's a great way, and the benefits for a seller are very, very good. So I think, probably maybe 40% of my business is auction business.
Yeah.
But there's not too many other agents that run auctions, no. Because it's and the reason why is because it's so much more work for an agent to do an auction. Like, it really is. You're probably very similar as well. Like, I think that's where we met, actually.
Yeah, it is.
at an auction. And it's so funny because a lot of buyers agents, they always try and steer clear of auctions. Like, always do. But you will actually do all your homework and everything before the auctions. Is that right? So you'll happily you'll buy at auctions for your clients?
Yeah, I will. And you're right. Like, I find a lot of buyers agents tend to avoid it, and whether it be they think it's too risky, or whether they think that they're going to overpay at an auction, I don't know, probably case by case, but you can eliminate almost all of the risk bidding at auction by just doing the work. So the two key things really are building and pest. So a lot of the time the agent will supply building and pest if it's an auction property. Now, I'll review that building and pest, but oftentimes I'll actually recommend getting our own one done with our own trusted inspectors. And look, that might cost $600. Some people simply aren't willing to pay that. And for that, they need to take the risk of potentially buying a home with some issues that may not have been picked up. That's okay. I say, if you want to do that, let's knock, $10,000 off your limit just to be able to mitigate that risk. And then the second thing is finance. So I'll always chat to my clients' brokers, make sure that they're comfortable with the client to go to auction. Now, big thing with bidding at auction tends to be valuation. So most pre-approvals or conditional approvals are subject to a valuation being done on the property. Now, depending on what bank the client goes to, some of them have really good internal valuation systems where I can say, look, we're going to be bidding up to $750,000. Can you please let me know if the bank's going to accept this property at that price? And most of the time they'll say yes. Sometimes they might say, look, the bank's only valuing it at $730,000. Now, the client still has the option to potentially run the risk that if they do a full valuation on the property, it comes in at $730,000, they might have to chip in the extra $20,000. If the client's got plenty of cash, oftentimes they're prepared to take that risk. But in saying that, I haven't had a valuation come in under contract price in probably 2.5 years. I do my due diligence. I know what properties are worth, and we're not overpaying for properties. So I don't think auctions need to be risky. I think sometimes I don't love an auction where there's a lot of really hot bidders and people pay overs. Like, I'm not going to allow my clients to pay silly overs for a property, so I'll miss out on those ones. But sometimes if the agent's done a really poor auction campaign, or perhaps it's the wrong market to be doing an auction campaign, we can buy it quite well. So, yeah, I don't care how the property is being sold. If my clients want to buy it, they're going to buy it.
And if the deal's there, yeah, absolutely. So I think that's... A lot of buyers agents will just see an auction, whether it could be the perfect property for their potential client, but they'll just skip over it just because it's got auction.
And they do, yeah. I have a lot of buyers who, when they start working with us, they say, oh, I really liked this property, but it was going to auction, so I didn't even consider it.
Yeah. And then they see it sold, and they're like, oh, that would have been perfect for my client.
Yeah. I'm actually, because I do like bidding at auction, I do think we can get good outcomes for our clients. I'm trying to push our auction service a little bit harder at the moment. So we're offering 2 different types of auction service. One is simply give me a limit and I'll go throw my hand up. And the second option is a full auction service, whereby we will do all the due diligence on the property. So we'll check the flood mapping. If it's in a body corporate, we'll look through the body corporate records. We'll review the building and pest for the client. We'll do a full appraisal on the property. I'll check in with the mortgage broker. I'll call the agent. I'll get the contract reviewed by the solicitor. So that, in a sense, can be a bit of an insurance policy that buyers can take out if they want to buy a property, but they're a bit too frightened to go to auction.
Yeah. And that's also probably another thing, is doing a lot of work for a potential auction property that because as a buyer's agent, you only get paid on, similar to an agent, you only get paid when the deal's basically done. So you're doing all this work for potential no guarantee that it's even going to come off. So
yeah.
And
I think that's probably one thing that sets us apart as well, is we don't have a set time period to work with a buyer. I've had a buyer with me for, over 6 months before. If they need help kind of even building momentum and building confidence, whether it be to even put their own property on the market, we're happy to be there with them and do it. A lot of buyers agents will work with them for maybe 3 months, and then if they don't buy anything, they've either got to pay a new engagement fee or they just kind of flick them. But we're there to actually genuinely help and support them. And if it takes, 6 months, 9 months, we're happy to do that.
How do you go about being a buyer's agent? Because all agents are so different, because you need to obviously have the relationships with the agents as such, but all agents run so differently. Like some agents, every single offer must be on a contract. Some are just happy with offer to purchases. Like, how do you go, like, trying to navigate that, like, with all these different personalities? Like, that must drive you insane.
I find probably 90% of agents good to work with. There's probably 10% that can make things a little bit difficult. But I mean, because I'm a broad Brisbane buyer's agent, I've bought in, I think, 70 different suburbs in Brisbane. So I've bought from a lot of different agents, and I know how certain agents work and what they like and what they don't like, and also buying in different markets from different agents as well. So when I go to submit an offer, I always call the agent, make sure they know I'm interested, and find out what the offer process is. So whether it be if they want offer an expression of interest, whether or not they want the offer on a contract, whether or not this is best and final situation, or if they're going to come back to me for more money. So based on what information the agent gives me, and oftentimes agents will give us a little bit more information. And most of the time it's because we ask the right questions. So agents cannot tell you where the other offers are, but, we can play a bit of a game hot and cold to understand kind of where these other offers are and what's going to be a competitive offer for our clients. So yeah, they're all different. It can be a bit of fun, but like, for example, if I know it's a best and final situation, I'm going to be absolutely asking every single question I can to this agent to see if I can find out where we need to be. But if I know that it's going to be, if they're going to come back to me for more money, I'm not going to give them my best and final, because, otherwise you shoot yourself in the foot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know how it works. Well done. I guess probably because the last couple of years has been a pretty big whirlwind with the property market, and there's been a lot of stuff going on social media, and there's a lot of people out there thinking, oh, buyer's agent, that looks like a very easy thing to be able to do. And there's all these new people that have just come into the industry, similar in as agents as well. There's been such a huge spike of real estate agents that have come into the industry. What is there anything you're doing that's, I guess, making you stand out more from the crowd? Because there's a lot of competition out there for buyers agency, isn't there?
Yeah. And, just like sales agents, the bar to entry is very low. So the market's kind of been flooded with these people who just want to make a quick buck, really. But a lot of the time they don't have the experience, and they don't have kind of the know-how on what to do. So a lot of these new buyers agents, they've never bought a property for a client. Some of them never even bought a property for themselves. Yeah. And they're going out there using the client as a guinea pig. Now, the one thing I do run into when I come up against these people is these buyers agents charge a very cheap fee, because that's their point of difference. Their point of difference isn't experience or knowing how to do this best. It's about the fact that they're cheap. And if all you need is time on your side for someone to actually physically attend the inspections, I mean, maybe don't expect the best outcome as far as negotiations and understanding the legalities and understanding the markets and things like that. But if you just need time, perhaps that could be someone good for you. I think one of our points of difference is that, again, we are quite broad buyers agents. So not a lot of people are looking in one specific geographical location. Like, I've got a lot of people who are looking both in the north and the south of Brisbane. And because I bought in about 70 suburbs in Brisbane, we can help guide them as to what suburbs might be best for them, what kind of pricing is going to get them the style of home that they want. And again, we're also working for the everyday people. So even if you've got a low budget, if what you're looking to buy exists and it's reasonable, we'll help you.
When you're trying to find deals as such for your clients, a very, very big thing in the buyer's agency world is this off-market or pre-market deal. What's your experience been like in dealing with them? Because just because they're off-market or pre-market doesn't necessarily mean it's a great outcome for your client. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. I bought something off-market from you, and that was great. That was a good off-market.
Yes. Actually, you did.
I did. A lot of buyers agents love to plug the fact that they're buying, 70%, 80%, 90% off market. I don't care if the property's on market or off market. If the better one's on market, that's the one we're going to be buying. If the better property is going to auction, that's the one that we're going to be buying. Yep. I find a lot of the time off markets can simply be unmotivated sellers testing the waters. Yep. They're not the off markets I want to buy. Yep. I really want to be buying the off markets where they've still got motivation, whether it be, maybe they can't afford the marketing and they don't want to spend, like, how much does it cost to market a home and put it on REA?
Depending on your location, in Logan, it's anywhere from $2,500 to $3,500.
Yeah, and then maybe staging it at another $5,000.
Yeah.
Yeah,
25.
paying mortgage repayments on a vacant property for a couple months. Some people might want to save that money instead of going to market, especially in more affordable locations where it ends up being a bigger percentage of the sale of the home. But tenanted properties, I like buying those for investors, or if it's a short tenancy, for owner-occupiers as well. They tend to not present the home as well as an owner-occupier may. So that's more of a pre-market a lot of the time, where if they can't sell it off market, they'll, move the tenant on, tidy up the home, then take it to market. Or messy divorces as well, as horrible as it is. They often don't want to have, to gather up the kids, the dogs, whatever it may be, 3 times a week, get them out the home and deal with that extra stress.
Yeah.
So as far as off markets go, from a sales agent's point of view, when would you choose to sell a property off market?
It's a case-by-case basis. So majority of the time, if a client wants to particularly sell in secrecy, they don't want their neighbours knowing, sometimes there's messy, as you said before, messy divorces. Sometimes buyers don't want to go to the market. But then also the other side of that is a lot of sellers are looking at buying and selling in the same market. So some of them don't want to go online and be exposed on their days on market and stuff.
When they're not ready.
Yeah, when they're not quite ready. But if they can get a great price off market, then that'll be able to put themselves in a better position to be able to buy. And then if you can have like a longer settlement or dictate the settlement terms, then they're probably more likely to probably sell it off market. But I don't generally sell too much off market. I'll always recommend to the client to go to market, because I definitely think it's in their best interest. But there's only a handful of people, just based on their circumstances, that I would sell off market.
Yeah, you're right as well with as far as flexibility of conditions off market. I find off market sellers tend to want more, whether it be they want a rent back or they want a longer settlement. But I also find as a buyer, we've got a bit more leeway as far as having our building and pest and finance conditions. Like if we need a bit more time, it tends to be easier there.
Yeah.
What about auction versus private sale? How do you determine whether a home's right for auction?
I'm a believer that every home you can auction. You really can. It's all just down to the sellers and their motivation to sell, and then also time-wise as well. Like if they have to sell by certain dates, or if they're purchasing something else, I'll always generally recommend auction right from the get-go. However, for some people, doing a private sale might be a little bit more suitable for them.
What about that home that you took to auction that made the news?
Oh, yeah.
You know the one.
Yeah, but 19 Billabong Drive. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. That was definitely a lot of fun. And then like that's a classic example of why auctions do really, really work.
For any home. Because it was a totally dilapidated.
It was
holes in every wall.
Yeah, so it was the owner was just had left it vacant for a while. That a couple of kids got in there, vandalised it, smashed it up, and it just left it in an abysmal state. Unfortunately, the owner didn't have insurance on the property, so pretty much they just had to get what they could for it. And there's a really funny story, because 2 days before the auction, we got an unconditional offer of $345,000, and the owner's like, "Oh yeah, absolutely, let's take it." I'm like, "Mate, we're 2 days away from the auction. Let's just see what happens. Like, let's just see what happens." And then, I think it ended up selling for $495,000.
How many bidders did you have?
Australian record. 161
crazy.
Registered bidders. It was really crazy, because like the day of auction, my team and everything, they're like, "Oh, how many bidder regos do we want to get?" And then I was like, "Oh, we're expecting maybe 50, 60 bidders." And I'm like, "Look, just print 100 just in case." And then like 5 minutes before the auction was about to kick off, they come to me and they're like, "Yeah, Cory, we're at a bit of regos." And I was like, "What do you mean? What do you mean we're at a bit of regos?" And there's still like a lineup of people. And so I had to go back to the office, get more bidder regos. And yeah, it was a very crazy auction. But something like that, you have to auction a property like that, because...
Well, you can't sell it with a building and pest, can you?
Well, no. Look, believe it or not, we actually did a building and pest on the property.
Did you?
because client, like, buyers obviously want to know, is there structural damage? Is there, you know, all these other things is...
You might catch a few more buyers who are looking at it as a renovator or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a classic example of why you have to take a property like that to auction, because if you were to take that and do a private sale with that, the bank's not going to lend money to it because the property's uninhabitable. So I guess having that experience and dealing with auctions and know how to run an auction campaign, there's no way the bank's going to lend it, but it was sold at auction. So
where did you kick off the auction? What was the first bid?
The first bid was $1. The first bid was $1. And it would have been such a cool story, but the underbidder was the guy that opened it up at $1. He just missed out, by $100. They got down to $100 bids, and he just missed out. But I had another property probably 2 months later, very similar to Billabong Drive in Browns Plains, and he ended up purchasing that one from me. So, good storyline in the end.
How crazy. Do you think that makes you the king of Logan?
Definitely not. No, but it was that was by far the most fun I've ever had selling a property. It was like the amount of phone calls and inbound calls, and then you get the prank calls, and then my phone was like
Channel 9 News rocking up at your door.
Yeah, that too. Then we were doing interviews and radio, and it was a lot of fun, that one.
Your claim to fame, hey?
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's pretty much it.
Good story to wrap this podcast up with.
Yeah. Are you going to come bid at more of my auctions now?
We'll see. We'll see.
We'll see.